Hey class, Mr. Falstrom here, and as you can tell by the title of this video, today we're going to be learning how to calculate the volume of prisms without unit cubes. Let's go! Our learning goal. We're going to be finding the volume of rectangular prisms and also the volume of composite figures made out of rectangular prisms, and we're going to be using the formula that we've already learned. Volume equals length times width times height. That's our goal. So here's what we know so far. We know that volume is a measure of how much space a 3D shape takes up. And we also know that of the volume of a rectangular prism that is built out of unit cubes can be calculated using different strategies. For example, you can count how many cubes are in each layer and add them together. So in this example, there are 9 cubes in each layer. If you add 9 plus 9 plus 9, you get 27 cubic units. Or you could do 9 cubes in a layer multiplied by 3 layers to get the 27 cubic units. That's a strategy that we've discussed already. Another strategy is we would multiply the length, width, and height measurements. So on this cube, since it's a cube, all sides are equal. So the length, width, and height are all equal to 3. So 3 times 3 times 3 gives us a volume of 27 cubic units. But what if you're given a rectangular prism that isn't made out of unit cubes? For example, this prism. There aren't any cubes for you to count, and there aren't any layers that are easily visible. So in this instance, if you see a prism that looks like this, your only real choice is to use the volume formula or the multiplication strategy. So for this prism, we're going to use that formula, length times width times height. Remember, multiplication, the order can be changed. You don't have to do length times width times height in that order. You can do it in any order that you like. But for this problem, I'm just going to actually follow length times width times height. So the length is 4, the width is 2, and the height is 3. And if I multiply those 3 things together, I would get 24 cubic meters. So in this case, if you look at the prism, it actually gives me meters as the unit. So that's what I want to label my answer. I wouldn't say 24 cubic units here because in this case, we're using meters. So it's time to test your knowledge and try a few of these yourself. So go ahead and figure out what the volume of this prism is. And the volume is 36 cubic feet. You just are going to multiply those 3 dimensions. So this is also an instance where it's really important that you know your multiplication facts, because now you can't use counting. You have to know how to multiply at this point to be successful. So if you need to have your times tables with you or you need to study those, I really suggest you keep practicing those, because for problems like this, you have to be able to multiply the numbers. Go ahead and try this one. What is the volume of this prism? And the volume of this prism is 72 cubic centimeters. And you'll notice in the way I did it, I chose to do the width times the height first, because 3 times 4 is 12, and then I did 12 times 6 to get 72. So 72 cubic centimeters. And how about this one? And the answer to this prism, the volume, it's 120 cubic inches. So again, 3 times 4 is 12, and then 12 times 10, that's powers of 10. We're just going to, when you multiply by 10, the number gets bigger by 1 place, so we're putting a 0 at the end to get that 120. So now that we've kind of done some basic rectangular prisms, it's time for us to talk about composite figures. and we definitely need to talk about it. So here's what we know so far. We know that a composite figure is a figure that's made out of several parts, and that different size rectangular prisms can be combined to form a composite figure. And then we know that we can divide the composite figure into different prisms. We'll find the volume of each one and add them together. That's what we've done so far. And for this prism, the answer, the volume of the green prism is 12 cubes. The volume of the yellow prism is 20. We'd add them together. The total combined volume for this composite figure is 32 cubic units. But what if we're given a composite figure that isn't made out of unit cubes? So again, there aren't any cubes for us to count. There aren't any layers, but we can still kind of do the same strategy. So the first thing that we're going to do this one is we're going to try and divide the prism. So you can see I just put a line there to kind of split them up. And now we have two prisms, and let me kind of use some color here to kind of show them to you. So we have a yellow one on the bottom, and we'll make the top one green. And at this point, now that we've kind of split them, it's the same thing as before. We need to find the volume of each one and add them together. So we'll start with the yellow one first. So what are the dimensions for the yellow prism? And you can see that they're pretty easy to find. We've got a length on the bottom, we've got the width, and we've got the height of the yellow prism. So with those three numbers, we can figure out the volume. What is the volume of the yellow prism? So the volume for the yellow prism is 36 cubic feet. 6 feet times 2 feet times 3 feet. So that part's done. Now all we need to do is find out the dimensions for the green prism and find its volume. And this one is going to be a little trickier. If you look at the green prism, it doesn't have it's not labeled like the yellow one. The yellow one, it's really easy to see the length, width, and height. But on the green one, we have to do a little bit of extra work to find those dimensions. So there's only one dimension that's really obvious for us, and that will be its length. So it has a length of 4 feet. It's shorter than the yellow one. And then the next one is the width. And if you kind of look there where I kind of highlighted the sides in red, you can see that it's just as wide as the bottom prism. They share the same width. So even though there's not a number there for the green one, it's the same as the one on the bottom for the yellow. They're exactly the same width. So the width is 2. And the hardest thing to figure out is going to be the height. Notice that, so there's the height of the green prism, but the number that we see right next to it is 8 feet. And the green prism can't be 8 feet tall because the yellow one is only 3 feet tall. So that 8 feet is actually telling us the height of both. It's that entire line. So if we add the height of the yellow and the height of the green, we get 8 feet. So what we're going to have to do is a little bit of subtraction. We're going to have to do 8 minus 3 to get the height of the green one. So the height is 5 feet. And that should make sense because if the yellow one's 3 and the green one's 5, 3 plus 5 gives us that total side length of 8 on the left. So those are our 3 dimensions. So now that we have them, we can figure out the volume. So what is the volume of the green prism? And it is 40 cubic feet. Now that we've got both of those volumes, our last step is going to be just to, let me go back. I'm sorry. Our last step is just going to be to add them. And the total volume for both of these figures, it's going to be 76 cubic feet. So now that we've kind of done one together, we're going to do one more. Let's go. So this one's kind of like in the shape of an upside down capital T. So we're going to follow the same steps that we learned when they were made out of unit cubes. So first step is we're going to still split them into prisms. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. So I've got it split, and then just because I think it's helpful to kind of make them stand out, I'm going to add some color. And we'll just use yellow and green again. So now we have a yellow prism, we have a green prism. So step 2, we just need to find the volume of each one. And we'll start off with the easier one, the green one. So go ahead and find the volume of the green prism. What is it? Well, the volume of the green one is 8 cubic inches. You can see down at the bottom we've got a length of 4, a width of 2, and a height of 1. So we're going to multiply those 3 dimensions to get the volume. That's pretty easy. Next step is to get the volume of the yellow prism, and this one is harder because we have to figure out its dimensions. It doesn't give us all of the dimensions. So let's talk about the ones that let's talk about the easiest dimensions first. So for the yellow one, we've got a width. It's right there. The width is 1. This next dimension is going to be 2. And you notice it shares that same, it's equal to the green one. It's got the same. And the reason why I'm calling it the length on this one is because length is the longest side, width is the shortest side. So the width is 1, the length is 2. And then we've got to figure out the height. So right here, this is telling us the total height of both prisms. If we add the height of the green one plus the height of the yellow, we'll get a total of 3 inches in height. So we're going to use this number and subtract the height of the green prism. And what will be left will be the height of the yellow prism. So if the green prism has a height of 1, we'll take that away from the 3. And we're left with a height of 2. So those are our 3 dimensions. Okay, now that we have all 3 dimensions for the yellow prism, it's time for you to figure out the volume. And the volume is 4 cubic inches because 1 times 2 times 2 equals 4. So now for the final step. We just need to add the volumes of these 2 prisms together. So what is the total volume of this composite figure? The total volume is 12 cubic inches. 8 plus 4 gives us 12. So way to go. I know these are a little challenging, but if you're patient and you take your time and you don't rush these problems, you can do them. Not every problem in math is going to be a problem that you can do quickly. Sometimes you're going to have to kind of sit down and spend a few minutes with it. And these are almost, to me, kind of like puzzles that you have to solve. I think they're kind of fun. So let's recap really fast. Volume without unit cubes. So even if a rectangular prism or composite figure isn't made out of unit cubes, we're still going to use the formula volume equals length times width times height to find the volume. It doesn't matter if there are no cubes to count. You can, that volume formula, it's going to work no matter what. So our learning goal was that we were going to find the volume of rectangular prisms and composite figures, which we just did. They were made out of rectangular prisms. And we used the formula volume equals length times width times height. We didn't have to count cubes. We didn't have to count layers. We were still able to be successful and find the volume. So now that we've watched this video, we're going to do a lot more practice. And I just want to thank you for participating and hanging in there. And I'll see you again on the next one.